Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about
sex,
love,
magic,
desire,
purpose,
bliss,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
We talked earlier in the season about sex and bliss. And we love talking about sex. We like writing about sex. We enjoy everything about sex. I don't think that's an overstatement. And so it's really interesting to explore sex in the context of bliss or being bliss adjacent, where we'll, at this stage, we know ourselves to our very core. We express ourselves to our very core. And all we want is pleasure to our very core. So I find it so meaningful, and I find it quite joyful just to be able to always bring sex in no matter where we are in our evolution, because it's that critical to our human experience as well as our divine experience on this earth plane. When I was able, and I thought, wow, interesting that this is episode 19 of 20.
Yeah, true.
That was not lost on me. Usually you're a bit more astute when it comes to episode themes and placement.
Well, I just felt 19 is normally 19 was purpose in season 1. 19 always is quite an important one, right?
It's an important one. And I think in some recent ones, it's been about future and children.
True.
And so interesting that we get to bring sex in the penultimate episode. And when you look at it, so sex and bliss are perfect partners, because through sex, we're sort of delivered the tiniest seeds of bliss, like no matter where we are in our evolution, whether our sex drive is up and down, like wherever we are, it depends on where we are in our power spectrum. So it really does speak to our relationship to sex and how sexual we are, feeling at least, and where we are in our desires will often be quite telling in terms of where we are in our power spectrum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So as we said earlier, by the time we're in actual bliss, we're fully turned on all the time, especially when we have all that divine energy flowing. It can feel like a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does it work?
So even if sex is not central to our lives because we have so much going on, it's an essential part of our being, because our power and thus sex is an aspect of that fullest divine expression, which is a really big statement, actually, considering. So now this is not to be confused with wanting and needing sex all the time, because when we're in our karma, so say you want and need sex all the time when you're in your karma, when you're in your karma, you're so out of your power, you're using sex often to acquire a semblance of power. So we're trying to plug into others. So we end up exploiting sex for our personal gain.
Mm.
So just because we might say, oh, but when I was in my karma, I was a really sexual being, that's fine. That's all well and good. We're not saying, oh, it's wrong. But some sex can sometimes still be misunderstood because you're in your karma. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Good. Okay.
But I've also spoken about sex a lot with you, so it's unsurprising that it does.
Okay. In bliss, we're just turned on all the time because we're just so tuned into ourselves, yeah? So we cannot and will not do without it, because it is one of the best parts about being in body. And therefore, it is critical to our evolution and human experience. And I just think it's so nice to just take a second and just acknowledge that. Yay for sex. But when I was kind of thinking about what we were going to share in this episode, it really made me think about certain current trends around sex that I think would be really helpful to sort of address. And one of the things I was sort of thinking about is, where does celibacy fit into this?
It's true, because there have been periods of time where I haven't really, we all have periods of time where we don't really have sex, whether or not you're with someone or not.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, just to say, you're with somebody for a really long time, you must always be having sex. That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always determine, not judge, but determine the state of a relationship by how much sex you're having. Really speaks to where you're at and what both people are going through, or what they might be going through in their partnership. And it doesn't mean that people nobody's taking breaks per se. You either grow really distant, or something physical could have happened that is not enabling it, or something. But it will always be reflective, which is why sex is such an important determiner of our compatibility. It will always be reflective of where we're at. Hence why we had that episode
Makes sense.
a little bit ago about evolution and where we're at in our, our different ways and stuff and what's complementary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if you choose to be celibate? What if you choose to not have anyone in your life?
Literally, more power to you. As in, you're going to have to be able to garner your power some other way because you're not doing it sexually. So where is that expression coming from? Usually it's coming from the mental body because you've turned off the physical body. Yeah. And that's okay. It could be for a time that really serves the physical body because it's undergoing some kind of rewiring. And to be able to transform means you really don't want to necessarily be meshing energies or mixing energies with anyone else.
Yeah, makes sense.
It could just get in the way. But
and that can last as long as it lasts?
It takes as long as it takes, but not usually more than 6 months.
Okay.
If you're looking at 6 months, I mean, if this was very intentional, that's a choice. Just like being a monk or a nun and taking vows of celibacy is, again, a choice, but not ever demanded by the divine, ever.
Interesting.
Celibacy is a very human concept, not a divine concept. So if you think about sort of our perception of ancient gods that are all fucking all the time, that's a bit more accurate.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No, that's very funny.
It was really sort of, I wouldn't say Western, but it's more a separation, not separation, but polarity that really gave rise to this idea.
Yeah.
Because again,
it's
it really
shutting off your power. Yeah.
Precisely. Well, so you shutting off your power, but more like siphoning the power so it could feed it in that other direction.
Yeah, makes sense.
But when it comes to intentional celibacy, and we do not mean through religious devotion and religious vows, but through intentional celibacy of like, I'm going to channel all that sexual energy into something. And it goes beyond sort of the 6 month point of like, well, this was for my body and some kind of transformation I'm going through. You're looking at, then I have to use my mental body to aid in my awareness, and thus where I can get my power. And so I will then access power through my purpose because of all the energy I've channeled into it. This does not apply to mission. I had to ask. And I will find other ways to be creatively sourced. But because I'm not doing this physically, as in I'm not engaging, that creative sourcing will really be through the mental body. It will not be spiritual, because spiritual requires all the bodies to be involved. So we cannot claim, well, spiritually, I'm much more whole because I'm not tending to my physical needs. Sex is not a physical need.
It's a divine one.
It's a divine one that has become damaged and distorted because of our perceptions and judgment and shame and all of that got wrapped up in it. Yeah.
So really, you do have to trust your choices and trust your body and...
Yeah. Be willing to explore it because it's all this suppression that distorts it all. And it starts at such a young age, as we said before, that we just misunderstand, and that one misunderstanding leads to another one and all the consecutive ones. And it's just really such a shame because nobody really wants to unwind and go backwards and examine that, So I guess in this respect, as a penultimate episode, we're having to look at younger generations and be like, can we just not fuck them up when it comes to sex?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But then how does it work? Like, let's say you don't necessarily have a partner and you have all this power running through you. Mm-hmm. Like, is it just, okay, if I want to, I don't know, attend a fun orgy, go to a sex club, have a one-night stand, like, how does that all line up?
By the time you're running this fully, you're going to have some kind of steady something.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what if is it just like a friends with benefits? They're like, no, it'll be steadier than that.
Okay.
When it comes to bliss.
Okay. That's interesting.
And interestingly, remember how we've said you can't magic a partner?
Yeah.
Very true. You can magic sexual opportunities.
Yes, which we've said before as well.
Yes, just reminding.
Yeah.
Just reminding.
Yeah. Good thing to remind people. And obviously go back to the magic episodes and check that out as well.
Yeah, but sex was just never meant to be messy and distorted or damaged. It was always a part of our fullest human and thus our divine self and realization. But it was constantly, again, just because of separation and then later polarity, we fucked it all up. And so the fact that we took the divine, not just our divine experiences, but the divine, and bound it up in shame and regret and judgment, that it's destroyed even our perception and concept of the divine, right? It runs that deep that we can no longer just sort of like let sex sort itself.
No.
As much as we would like to think, well, just find your person and then you'll just sort it out that way. And that's why in previous seasons we talked about how important it is to have different types of sexual relationships and figure these things out. Because it really might be that you have a relationship that's based purely in sex, and that could be the most healing thing you do for yourself.
Yes. And that's why we discuss it a lot in Comic Affair as well, about the sexual revolution. Mm-hmm. Because it really can change the way you look at the whole world.
Yeah. And your place in it and your empowerment. It's not everything, but it is certainly significant enough.
And as we discussed, you know, to be a sexually free person is I can have sex with whoever I want, whenever I want, however I want.
Yeah.
And it's not like rapey. It's like just, I'm so free, I'm not going to hold myself back regardless of the circumstances. If I want it, I'll go for it.
Yeah. Which is why the previous episode we talked so much about how the pursuit of happiness is really the unadulterated. The unadulterated pursuit of happiness has everything to do with how we can help this world.
Because it's also like just absent of judgment, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you're having sex, you are absent of judgment in that kind of space. You learn what that could be like. Mm-hmm. And then that can infiltrate and penetrate.
You're always good with the sex puns, Rhea.
There's always going to be one or two. But like that can really penetrate the rest of your world. So you learn it in one place and you apply it everywhere, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You get to know the feelings of desire, the feelings of freedom, the feelings of connection, the feelings of power. You get to learn all of that, and then you just get to apply it everywhere. And it's important to be having sex if you're so inclined, because you do feel alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's important.
I mean, it's essential. But the thing is, because we've had so many lifetimes of sexual dysfunction and this notion of the divine being bound up in all of that, we're very behind when it comes to our sexual maturity and evolution. Mm. Because not only have we been born into a world and a society in which it's really fucked up, we keep perpetuating it by living in that state. So as far along as we can get in other areas of our lives and evolve and be like, oh God, yeah, I'm just such a connected being, and, I'm doing so much for society, etc. We often still leave our sexual identities and who we are. We still keep it small. Yeah. And I don't mean it's because we don't talk about it. Talking about it is certainly part of it, but it's really just fully living it. And so we find ourselves unwitting accomplices to this dysfunction. Even if we've come far enough along, it's like we still have a ways to go.
But I mean, you get to a point, I feel, where you can really just kind of have who you are in your sexual expression. Like you just know it and you're able to express it. And so you know who you are inside, you know who you are when you connect to another, and you're open to like seeing different hues and having different adventures and, but you know what your body is like. You know how to use that body and share that body. And you do it, it's not a mental exercise. It's a instinctual one that kind of allows you to get back to who you are.
It is in the initial parts of us reclaiming our sexual identity. But when we're talking about, which is why we had this previous episode that was super dry about divine identity, when we're fully reclaiming our divine identity and we're at this space of fullest divine expression, it's not just about the instinct. It's about the full power behind all of that, which is much bigger.
Yes.
At this stage. So it's being able to communicate that full self that embodies that entire sexual aspect to whomever we're with.
Yes.
And that's not something that we can really understand, especially when we can start to grasp it when we're in this space of like divine identity and full divine expression and all of that by the season. But in the outside world, we're still looking at such a massive sexual dysfunction and distortion. So when we understand how evolution works, how growth and evolution works in society, we can only get so far in our evolution, but we can never go so far that the rubber band snaps, because we need to get other people along the way.
Which means once we're having great sex, just keep having it and hold space for people to join you there.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that needs to be said differently, but the way you say it is correct. So I was like, yes. But if I'm talking about sexual abuse, trying to get people to evolve out of that so they can have healthy sex, I'm like, again, we're holding bliss as like the ultimate vibratory place, like the ultimate vibration. And we do have the capacity to get there while separation still exists over here.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about in these later episodes of the season about how we have to have skin in the game and be invested so the world can start to transform, because we've undergone our full transformation.
Well, I think it's just also about understanding that all that kind of stuff is just real. Like when I say having sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, however you want, I'm not saying have sex be an externalization of your pain.
Exactly.
I'm saying have sex be an externalization, an expression of your joy and your love and your connection and all that stuff, which means that if that's the case, then you are also playing into the I thou, which is you're respecting the autonomy and desires of another, which means a lot of that dysfunction doesn't really can't factor into it, because it's there's no space for it there. You're not going to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with you. You're not going to push someone who doesn't want to be pushed. You're not going to take advantage of anyone or anything.
No,
because that's not,
sorry,
that doesn't fly. That's not.
No, because we don't exist in a state of otherness anymore.
Exactly.
Okay. So when we are in a place of oneness, which is still pre-bliss, and there are a lot of people who are existing in these extreme states of separation and otherness, what we have to do is allow for a certain amount of our evolution to give a goal for the otherness to reach. Now, otherness effectively does not necessarily, in some places and spaces, I mean, in terms of energetically, otherness does not necessarily transform into oneness.
Okay.
As a concept that is outside of us. It can only happen internally. So that is why the otherness within, we heal, we become at one with ourselves, and we then contribute to the world of oneness. And then we can exist and thrive within the framework of oneness in 5D, which is oneness is an aspect of fifth dimensional consciousness, 5D, but is not all of 5D.
Yes.
Yeah. In 5D, there's room for more, but no room for otherness. If those within the otherness framework cannot transform internally, they will remain in otherness to such a degree that they will not be able to exist or thrive, because there will not be enough to feed off of. And that is the point in which we need to get everybody into their growth and evolution to get to 5D. And those who are not choosing, who are not choosing that will just fall by the wayside. There'll be less and less of that. Sex will always be, and how we conduct all of our relationships, no matter what they are, from sex onward, will always be reflective of where our society is at.
Okay.
Just like you can understand the state of a relationship of two individuals and where they're at because of where they are sexually. So you can understand where society is at because of where it holds sex.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So the amount of otherness a society or an individual holds when it comes to sex will really be reflective of their relationship with the divine. So interesting, huh?
Makes a lot of sense.
So sex and bliss really are not about celibacy or even monogamy, ironically. It's about the greatest sex we're having because we are our greatest selves all the time. So we cannot contain it within a concept anymore. It becomes very concept-less by bliss. Even if we have a single partner, I'm not going to sit around and be like, well, I'm monogamous. It's just a given how I choose to have sex. But if I'm choosing covenantal union, as we said before, my physical connection with this other person
will
cannot be severed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what they mean by that. It's the sex stuff.
Yes, very much. This sex is tremendous in bliss because it amplifies our power. So that's why we have to be with somebody who can not only handle that power, but yearn for theirs as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So they have to be individually so complete that their power is their own, which is an incredible idea. So incredible that can we even conceive of our own, which I think is, well, I mean, here we are, we're just talking about, our individual development and, divine identity and full divine expression and personal power. And, what was it in the previous one? Like something happiness. And it was in the previous episode, something yields power, and that power fuels bliss.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it from such an individual perspective of like me and bliss, Imagine it really when it's not even reflected back, but when you're within a unit.
What I find interesting is, if this is going to sound like a very weird divergence, but it's not.
It's okay.
Episode 19 normally is kind of like the last episode of the season, and episode 20 is normally like the start of something new. Mm-hmm. And it feels like this season has been leading up to 3 words. And those 3 words are we in bliss. And so we're talking about it in terms of sex. Oh, thanks. But effectively, that's what this season has been about. We in bliss.
Yeah. Because we do not exist, even if we're a party of one in bliss, because we enter it individually as the divine. We're not ever alone in it.
And this whole point of being in this world is so the divine can experience itself. And we've tried that where the divine was othered. But if we both know that we're the divine on some level, and then we come together, that's really the divine experiencing itself.
Yeah.
That's really we in bliss.
Yes.
And that's why love in some ways isn't enough, because there's so much more than that in bliss. Mm-hmm. But we're still together, and there's still that love, and that love will still bridge us, even if we're at slightly different places. Mm-hmm. And that's really nice.
Yeah. To recognize somebody who recognizes that they are the divine, it doesn't take looking for a religious or spiritual person. Look at how engaged a person is in their purpose. That will be fundamental to understanding who they are.
Do they know themselves?
Yeah.
Do I know myself? And so therefore, can we know each other?
Yes. And do they have enough confidence in themselves that they can handle all the power that we both bring to the table?
Yeah.
I really did. I was keep getting shivers. I'm like, this is so nice.
But do I have, I know it's nice. And do I have enough confidence too? Like, because imagine then what we can do and how we can change our worlds and the rest of it.
Yeah. It's all about transformation at this stage.
But that's what this season has been about, huh?
Mm-hmm. We in bliss.
This episode is brought to you by Karma Magic Bliss. For more information, resources, and links to our books, check out our website, karmamagicbliss.com, and Karma Magic Bliss across all socials.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.